a video of my chickens. So these are laying hens. They devote a relatively large amount of energy to making their eggs. And that's why female costs for reproduction are so high, because the chickens invest so much time and energy as females to make those gametes, much larger relative to males. You can see the chickens all coming in to see what's going on. Again, they're very affectionate, not afraid of us at all. They like to hang out right underneath you. When they come into the chicken house, there's just a sign of meet the girls. They roost up on here because they feel comfortable roosting up in trees at night, like their ancestral grouse and things that they came from. They'll be up away from predators up in the tree branches. During the day, they can run outside, and you can see I have a doorway for them to go outside, and I close it at night. It's on a cable system, so I can close that door at night because things like American mink will come in and least weasel and just chew the heads off all the chickens. So members of the family Mustelidae, or the mustelids, have a bloodlust, and when I was a kid, my chickens would routinely get killed by the mink, and so I had to build this chicken house really airtight and animal tight. Even a mouse really can't get in here unless they come in through the doorways. But that has let my chickens avoid any kind of an attack from the mustelids like the American mink. I'll just show you really quickly them laying their eggs and how that works. So the chickens will come up into the nesting boxes, and you can see there's one chicken's leg in there right now. They will lay their eggs, and every day a chicken will pretty much lay one egg. These ones are getting a little bit older, so they're slower on that. If we're lucky, we'll be able to see an egg come down. I have the floor built on an incline so that they don't accidentally step on their eggs. If they do step on their eggs and break them and want to feed on them, that can be something where they'll start to feed on their eggs routinely, and then there's a fresh egg just dropped down. Everybody see that? So there's the fresh egg came down, and you see it's the one in the center that's still moist. When they come out of the chicken, they're still, well, that's the freshest egg you're ever going to get right there, and there's a bucket full of other eggs that we have. But that chicken put a lot of energy into that egg, a lot of lipoproteins made from the liver under direction of estrogens from the ovaries. Those lipoproteins are made to form the egg yolk. Albumin comes around that, and then they have a shell gland that secretes the shell all around that egg. And if there's a rooster present, they would fertilize that egg first, and then there'd be an embryo inside that would live off all that lipoproteins and give them a good source of energy up until they can feed on their own. So I have some chicks over here that are no longer really chicks. They're getting closer to the pullet stage. These are going to be the next generation of my chickens. There's some white ones in there, and also some golden comets. So I like to have a mix of them. So these guys here are about 10 weeks old. They grow pretty quick. They have a fairly efficient feed conversion ratio. So about every 2 kilograms of food that you feed them, they will convert that into 1 kilogram of body mass. Things like cows would have a very poor feed conversion ratio. It takes about 8 kilograms of food to make 1 kilogram of biomass. On the other hand, fish are almost 1-to-1. So there's some Atlantic salmon that are being raised that are triploid by Aqua Bounty, and they actually have a 1-to-1 feed conversion ratio, which is pretty outstanding. So once these chickens get bigger, they'll go out with the other ones. Right now, they would run away because they don't associate this with home. But my chickens, I let them out in the yard, and they will come back here because this is their home. They can free range, and then they'll come back whenever they want to. So just a little bit of insight about me and some of the things in my life that I think are important. But there's also some ecological principles here that I like you guys to see. You see the chickens there eating some food. They communicate with each other, so like other birds, they'll communicate by calls and by making vocalizations. I can tell if they're agitated or content or excited just by the sound of their vocalizations. Sometimes they'll just talk to each other and want to know where the other ones in the flock are, and that's reassuring when they get calls back. So that little side feeder there is actually, beside their main feeder, is actually containing oyster shell. And we do some research with oysters. And so we generate lots of shells. I'll set this down. But in order for their eggshells to be strong, we'll feed them some oyster shell, and they will crack this open to get the calcium from it that makes their eggs strong. So we just hit the shells from the oysters with a hammer, and that makes it fairly fine. And the chickens will eat this. Inside their mechanical digestion stomach, called a gizzard, they will break apart this. They'll eat little rocks and stuff as well, which will break apart and help to mechanically digest their food within the gizzard before it's chemically digested in their stomachs. So some neat adaptations that these local birds have for feeding. And here's a more or less fairly complete oyster shell that wasn't broken up. You can see what it looks like. That's the inside. That's the outside surface. And again, just a byproduct of our oyster research. If you go to buy the oyster shell, it's about $30 a kilogram. It's very expensive. But fortunately, being able to do oyster research, we have lots of shells, and we just break them up ourselves. You can catch them from the coastline as well. They're fairly sharp. You see the process here for the muscle attachment. It's a bivalve. It opens and closes. And it has a very smooth secretion on here, the mother of pearl secretion on the inside of the shell. The outside is very, very rough. And the inside is smooth because that's where the organism, the blob of tissue, lives. So, that's just some of the things around my house, just to share a little bit of my life with you when we're trying to get to know each other virtually through an online experience. Here's some interesting tidbits.